Welcome back, Idiot Squared viewers. This week, we're going to be talking about some crazy ass shit that's happening in Australia right now. And not just Australia. This seems to be increasing around the world. Violent events in Australia this past week. We've had 6 or 7 different stabbing events. We had a guy go crazy in one of the shopping centres in Sydney, in a affluent suburb. He ended up stabbing 6 or 7 different people. We had a machete fight in a Melbourne shopping centre the day later. And then since then, we've had a young man attempt to murder or stab a priest during a live stream. So this happened live. And then there was some semi-riots, that kind of stuff happening outside. Anyway, it seems as if the incidence of these events is increasing. We're not typically used to having this kind of stuff happen in Australia. So it's kind of weird. Polska, what's your take? Have you heard about these things? Let's have a little bit of an explore.
So I have heard about the attempt on the bishop or the priest there.
Yeah.
There was a video of, well, like you said, it was on the live stream. Apparently the knife didn't open properly and he attempted to stab the priest. And I think the priest is all right, isn't he? Because the knife didn't really go deep or something, or the knife didn't open properly, or it was a failed attempt nonetheless. But yeah, I saw that video. That was crazy. So were they in a Christian church or a Catholic church?
Oh, I don't know the exact specifics. They were definitely in some sort of place of religious worship. It says the attack was on Bishop Mari Emmanuel, so possibly Christian. But yeah, you were going. I can find that out for you.
No, it's all good. It's all good. It's just it's crazy. So right before the pod, you kind of mentioned that you think maybe things are getting a little bit out of control in Australia. It seems to be more of these kinds of scenarios occurring. So my question is, do you think that the news is just concentrating on that shit now? Or do you maybe think that because of the divide that has been occurring between the right and the left, people are just getting angry and sick of shit and just going out to the streets and handling their shit? So I sometimes think it might be a little bit of that as well.
Yeah. I tend to think it's like a bit of both. There's probably, I think it'd be a confluence of factors. But, times are changing, I suppose. That's one of the things. And so as the social landscape changes, as the geopolitical landscape changes, as people have more pressure put upon them in different areas or different dimensions of life, this sort of radicalization or these extreme acts or extreme beliefs tend to sort of pop up or increase, or have significant, have adequate impetus or pressure on them to then act out, right? And I think that's part of it. We're getting a lot of what we've, like America, have increased our immigration. So there are a lot more people migrating to Australia from different areas, from different backgrounds, from different histories that have different values and different belief systems. So you have a lot more people in a fixed space interacting and colliding with each other of different beliefs, opinions, cultures, and behaviors that can also, cause friction, so to speak, cause conflict, cause collisions that lead to different outcomes, I suppose. But yeah, there's a lot of people call this like the meaning crisis, right?
The meaning crisis?
Yeah, the meaning crisis, like where people sort of lack a bit of meaning. And then so because they might be a bit lost and they're looking for something, and then people can put ideologies out there or these extreme views about things, and that can indoctrinate these people and get them to sort of adopt that and start behaving in extreme ways. But it has always been a thing. It's just, yeah, it possibly is on the rise, but it could be just because the pressure in society is changing.
I definitely believe that, because it seems our generation, or our, like world, like our world now, it's so much different than what it was 20, 30 years ago, even because of technology, and people are consumed by it. And I think when you're not, when you don't feel, when you're not being purposeful, or when you don't have a purpose, or when you're not trying to achieve something, and you're just in this sort of social media space, you're not going to find purpose there. And that is probably a large factor into why there's so much much more evidence of mental issues, mental problems with the population today in comparison to what it was 30 years ago. So that's probably another reason why we could be having more and more of these situations occurring, like it is in Australia with the stabbings. And it's not only in Australia. I mean, in America, there's school shootings. Like, it seems like every week there's a new one. It's almost constant. Recently, my father and mother they're being put in prison. They're on trial, and they were sentenced to prison because their son, I think, or daughter, son or daughter, I don't remember, went to school and shot the school up. And this happened in Michigan. And there were some people arguing that, oh, it's not fair that the parents are going to prison. They're not responsible. And you could argue that, right? But at the same time, if you look at all of the evidence, the parents were completely ignoring cries for help from the child. When the child expressed, listen, I'm not doing well, I need some help, the parents would just, ignore it, put it off to the side. They helped their kid buy a gun recently, like just before the shooting took place at the school. So there was a really high level of negligence on the parents' part, but also by putting those parents in prison, you're sort of setting like the president is it's setting a bad precedent for what's to come next. Because what if you're a father or mother that's not in the child's life? Are you then responsible for the actions of that child? At what point are you responsible for the child's actions? And at what point are you not? Like, where do we draw that line? So it's a very dangerous thing, I think, that Michigan has done, putting those parents in prison. But again, it's difficult because if you look at all the evidence, it was just such a high level of negligence. I almost feel like it was a little bit of their fault at the same time. So it's a really difficult and unique circumstance.
It's a super hard line to distinguish between, right? Because there are actually like two extreme sort of views you can take of opposite ends of the spectrum, right? You can take it's completely that kid's responsibility for everything that he's done in his life and all of his actions, and he's the only one that's responsible. And then the opposite view of that is he's not responsible at all, and it's actually society that's responsible for him and those behaviors. So that's like two ends of the spectrum, so to speak. And the answer is it's probably somewhere in the middle, where like, people possibly, like not everybody does these behaviors, right? These are sort of rare events, but they seem to be increasing in prevalence, right? And that could be an indication that we are possibly not in the best place as a society, or we're undergoing a change that is causing the incidence of these things to go up. And like you mentioned, purpose. And so I would tie that with purpose and meaning. So a lack of purpose and meaning, or if people feel stuck, they feel like there is no way for them to live a meaningful, purposeful life, they might lash out and do these kinds of behaviors. Or if they're not being heard, like that could be a really big thing. You mentioned that the parents ignored the child or the cries for help, like, well, what else? If you feel as if you've tried to communicate and tried to be heard and understood, but nothing has worked, then to that person, it might be the obvious thing to do something extreme so that people finally notice you. So one interesting thing that came to my mind when you were mentioning that was with kids, when kids behave badly, sometimes that behaving badly is just a way to get attention. And then, because when the kids aren't behaving badly, the parents don't need to pay attention, but the kids want the attention. And so then end up sort of unconsciously or subconsciously learning that by doing these bad behaviors, they get their parents' attention. Now, it's not necessarily good attention, but it's attention. And if that's what they're optimizing for, if that's what they're trying to get, then they'll do anything to get that attention. And so sometimes it can become really bad behaviors. Other times it can become good behaviors. And there is a role that the parents play in that, right? So there could be parents out there who pay attention when the child does something good. And so that reinforces that good behavior so the child does more and more of it. It could be the inverse of that, where the parents, when the child is good, the parents don't pay any attention. They just keep doing their life and don't notice it, don't encourage it. And so when those kids do something bad, that's the only time they pay attention. So they're sort of indirectly reinforcing that bad behavior. But yeah, I think it's an interesting thing to think of it as two ends of the spectrum, where we can take one end, which is like every human has complete autonomy and control of their lives, right? Complete, sort of free will, so to speak, right? And then the other end of that is where they actually have no free will, and it's all based on the society and the culture at the time, right? And again, I think it's somewhere in the middle, the answer is going to be. But interestingly enough, Sam Bankman-Fried, SBF of FTX, that motherfucker, his mom is one of the pioneers in this kind of research, sort of saying that like criminals aren't actually to blame. It's actually society. Like those criminals did those actions. But in a sense, like there is a case to be made for this, right? Like I'm saying, there are two sort of extreme views. I think the answer, as we've learned with all of these things, is it's some combination of the two. But in the extreme, you can sort of view it from those two lenses. So she's sort of taking that maximal sort of, people don't really have that much control and autonomy. They are sort of just like pawns in a larger game, so to speak.
I laughed because I was picturing her being representing,
justifying,
representing him in court. Listen, there's all this evidence to suggest that this is actually not his fault. It's all of your faults. It's society's fault. So he's therefore innocent. I rest my case.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But then everyone is innocent. That's the issue with that.
Precisely. But it puts an onus on the sort of meta-organism society to sort of change its ways. But that's the thing, is you can't have the society or all societies make everything perfect for everyone, so to speak. I don't think that that's a possibility. I think that becomes like a crystallized state, and then that's like stasis, and then we die. So there always will be these pockets that are going against the grain or aren't completely satisfied. And I think that's part of what makes us humans as well. Like we're never truly satisfied. If we were, we would stop, if that makes sense. But we never stop. And that's part of what keeps us evolving and developing and progressing as a species, as societies, and as a meta-organism.
You mentioned there was some dude in Australia that went into a supermarket and stabbed 7 people.
Shopping center, yeah.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah,
what
so
happened?
He lives in Queensland, apparently. Apparently there's some history of mental health and stuff like that. He was just sort of becoming more and more radicalized. He made a trip down to Sydney. On his way down, he stopped off to get his knives sharpened. And then he left like a bad review for the guy that sharpened his knives.
So you would think at that point, he already, all right, I got it off my chest. I'm good. I'll just go home. Won't fucking stab anybody anymore. Because sorry. All right. Sorry.
Super, super strange, right? And then there's like video of him getting sushi before he does this. And then he goes into Bondi Junction, Westfields. I actually used to go there almost every day after school when I went to school in Bondi. Mad interesting. But so he went kind of crazy. There's a bunch of footage online from it where he goes and does the stabbings. Some people tried to stop him, which is pretty is commendable. Like there was people that actually tried to take control of this before the police got there. A bunch of people didn't. All in all, pretty scary. But apparently he had some mental health issues. there's a bunch of people now trying to frame this as, was it hatred of women that drove him to do this? So I don't know if you've seen an uptick in this narrative being pushed about like sort of trying to divide men and women, about like, this all violence to women is male violence kind of vibe, which I think is just stupid, because women can hurt women, men can hurt men, men can hurt women, women can hurt men. Like it's not unique to just one sex versus another sex. Like this happens intersex as well. So anyway, there's an article in the New York Times saying, was it hatred of women? Australia asks after stabbing rampage. So reeling from the mass stabbing, Australians ask, was it about hatred of women? All but 3 of the 18 people killed or injured Saturday were women. So
18?
Killed or injured. So he went pretty hard.
Yo, how the fuck do you even have the energy to do that? Like that's
mad loaded up on sushi ahead of time, dude.
You have to get the pre-stabbing meal, sushi meal. Bro,
no, legit. Like, he did.
But think about it, though.
Crazy.
But like, think about that. Hurting 18 people, and not one of those people could successfully take this guy down or defend them. You know what I mean? Because the thing is, I think we all like to imagine ourselves what we would do in those types of situations. But the matter of fact is, if it's like 2 or 3 people against one, it's game over. You can't fight off 2 or 3 people. Like, you're not, who's that keto guy that made those movies in the 80s and 90s?
Steven Seagal.
Yeah, Steven Seagal. Yeah. Right?
We're not all Steven Seagals. Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah. But you know what I mean? Like, it's just crazy to me that he was able to get away with that for 18 people. That's nuts. Right?
So this speaks to another. Absolutely, but this speaks to another thing in society at the moment is, good times create weak people. The saying is typically men, but like, we've been in pretty good times for a while now. So, and geographically, like where this place is located, where Bondi Junction is located, it's essentially an affluent area to some degree, right? And so the people in there, and especially like shopping and the rest of it, they're not typically going to be the kinds of people that are going to defend themselves. Like it's a part of an evolution of society as well. Like I think if he did this in a different suburb, he probably wouldn't have got as far without people sort of getting in the way. But interestingly enough, it was a female police officer who shot him and killed him. So she was the one that came in and finally resolved the issue. But there was people who did try to stop him. There are a bunch of different people. I think one of the notable people was an immigrant security guard, actually, was one of the people who put up a decent fight against him. But yes, I definitely do think that these good times creating weak men or weak people is part of this as well. So again, in Australia, this is really foreign. Like, it's not something that happens typically. So I don't think people live their lives in a bit of a bubble, in a sense, in terms of like, the world is incredibly harsh, like it really is. But in pockets of society, it's not like these things just don't happen. You're not confronted with this on a daily basis.
True. It is probably a circumstance of people being like a deer in the headlights, just being stunned and not knowing what to do. Right?
Absolutely.
You see this lunatic of a guy stabbing someone, and then he starts running towards you, and you just stunned. You can't move. You don't know what to do, and that's how he was able to effectively hurt so many people. Possibly, it just hurts him. Mm-hmm.
But think about it through this lens, right? Because this has been so foreign, and this isn't something that this isn't part of our everyday life here, especially in this sort of suburb, right? Like, it's just not part of everyday life there. People are unprepared. But how do people then start to get prepared? Well, these things have to happen. So is this just part of the natural cycle, right? Like, is this part of the pendulum swinging back so that people do become more aware and start to become more prepared? Like, this is, I'm a huge advocate for jiu-jitsu and building one's physical capacity. purely because it's better to have it and never need it than to need it but not have it. And so these sorts of events, as horrible and as harsh as they are sometimes or often the impetus that's required to start to get people to take certain things more seriously or start to realize the harshness of reality.
I'm looking up this quote that a philosopher said before about strength. It was amazing. I heard it recently, and it was along the lines of like what a shame it would be to go through life without attempting to see what the limits of your own body is, right? And he was referring to strength. Yeah, I don't know. I can't remember who it was. No, Marcus Aurelius came up, but it wasn't him. Can't remember who it was, but yeah, basically that was the gist of it. That what a shame it would be to go through your entire life without testing the limits, without testing
Yeah.
your physical limits,
and without challenge. There's no real reason to do it, right? Without the challenge or the impetus to do it, there is no real reason. So this is crazy. Like the fact that this is starting to happen in Australia, it to me signifies that like, okay, things are definitely changing. Like we've seen this in the US, we've seen this in other places. Like, and don't even get me started. Like there is way worse stuff happening throughout the rest of the world, like the bombings and the wars around the world and the genocides and the mass starvation, all of these things. Like there are incredible hardships around the world, and this is just a very small incident in a little place, but it does speak to the fact that these sorts of extreme events do seem to be increasing, which I think is signaling some sort of shift that's happening within society globally, if that makes sense. One other crazy thing, I don't know if you got anything else to say on this Australian stuff, but did you see this guy that set himself on fire in front of a Trump event?
No, you mentioned that. I forgot about that. Yeah, what? Tell me, guy. This sounds mad interesting. I don't know why. I feel kind of. Here's the thing, man. I'm becoming so desensitized to this shit. Like we're talking about a mass stabbing and horrific events, and for some reason, it's almost just like another day, for some reason. And I'm trying to be sensitive towards it, but it's hard to.
You got to
It's
be
hard
careful.
to be honest.
It's very hard to care for everyone in the world.
Yeah, but I am interested to hear about why would you set yourself on fire? I just human behavior is what interests me. So I like to try and put myself in the mind of this person who's setting themselves on fire or was eating sushi before a mass stabbing. Like what is happening? What do you like? What is going on in there that they that you can just sort of have a nice sushi meal and then go and attempt to kill a bunch of people, right? Like that's what interests me about these stories is what's going like how does someone get there, right?
After a long period of time, that's how. And there's many different paths to get to that point. And I think that like that's trying to understand that can be useful in a sense, but I think I don't know. One way I have learned to think about this is that the answer isn't necessarily like, oh, what were they thinking, etc. It's more that the fact that they did get to the point where this was the only option that they thought they had, if that makes sense.
Point.
Yeah, and tying back to the other people you mentioned in America, where the parents are getting sentenced, like part of the reason why they might be getting sentenced is because they didn't intervene when they could have, like at earlier stages, to stop it getting to that point where that child thought that their only option or their best path was to do what they did, like that mass shooting. But I think it indicates that, okay, there are some things in society that might be less than ideal currently in terms of the way that things are done, and that does radicalize people and that does sort of lead to these events. I need to think through that a little bit more to get a bit clearer on it, but yeah, that's it. So I'm going to
I agree though.
Quickly share this screen because there's some interesting stuff with this guy.
And it was in front of the Trump?
outside the
What's it?
courthouse where Trump is on trial.
Oh, okay.
Guy,
Okay.
there is a wild video for this that I don't know if we're going to be able to show, but he was still alive after he was burnt, dude. He was moving.
Yeah,
It's crazy. Anyway, this guy, Max Azzarello. So I'm just going to shrink my screen a tad.
It's always easy to say now, like if you look at his eyes, you're like, yeah, there's those eyes look a little bit.
Yeah, so I would say that like this
doom
is
and gloomy, but just because we know what he already did, so it's easy to say that now.
Yeah, but it's also like, okay, you mentioned before, like what goes through people's mind. Well, you know that it's got to be pretty intense because that's an intense act, right? You've got to really either not feel any hope or think that what you're doing is the best path forward. So that to me is mad interesting. Okay, let's just focus on these things here. I'm going to click this. Yeah.
Hey,
Can you
want
hear?
to learn the biggest secret in the world? In March 2023, sketchy billionaire Peter Thiel started a bank run. I did 1,500 hours of research, and I learned all their rotten secrets. The big one is that cryptocurrency is history's first planetary, multi-trillion-dollar Ponzi scheme. That's an economic doomsday device. And when that Ponzi goes insolvent, as all Ponzis must, we'll get the worst economic collapse in world history. And every powerful person you can think of is in on it. Want to know why everything gets worse and more expensive? That's because we live in a secret kleptocracy. That's when the government gets taken over by con artists whose only job is to steal from the public. And I hope you know this is wonderful news, because now that the public knows about the secret kleptocracy, they get to abolish their criminal government. Follow for more, or read this booklet, and you will bend history.
Start a fucking revolution. Start a fucking revolution. Start a fucking revolution. You've got nothing to lose.
So he posted that last vid, just like a day or two before he did this.
I will say the first video doesn't strike me as a guy that would light himself on fire, but that second one does.
Yeah, so to me, that's like it shows that he's got to a point where he feels that the best path of action for him is to do this. Like the only way that he could possibly be heard or that he could get people's attention to what he thinks is right and or true and or happening is to do this. And in a sense, was correct because we're talking about it. Lots of other people are talking about it. So it definitely got attention. But doesn't that show you like I think it is crazy. But as we've discussed before, lots of crazy people throughout history have ended up being right. Like, so just being crazy doesn't indirectly mean that you were wrong. It's just like at the time you can appear crazy, but over time you can highlight that you were right. Like Wright brothers, okay, they were crazy at the time to want to fly. Turns out they were right. And a bunch of other people. I'm not saying that this guy is right. I don't know. But it is fascinating to think that he either got himself to believe or whatever research he did led him to think that this series of actions was the best step forward.
But by the way, sorry, I forgot to ask because I was so immersed in trying to put myself in his shoes. You know, again, I always seem to, that's like my default thing to do.
Yeah.
Why did he do this? What statement was he trying to make? What was he trying to bring to light? What was...
So I'll just show you quickly. So he has, I have a bunch of these screenshot as well we can go through. So his Instagram handle was dipshit secrets. So his big thing is essentially how the government has been overtaken by criminals, con artists, and they're essentially enslaving everybody financially is one of the things. But he's trying to say that the current systems that are in place aren't serving the people. They're actually serving a select subset of the people, and everyone else is sort of getting fucked over because of that. So he's trying to bring light to that. So he's got a series of these little books or pamphlets that he puts out. He even has a manifesto, I'm pretty sure. But essentially they read like this, where he's gone through and he's put together his research, his ideas, or his beliefs into documents where people can read about them, showing that there is, a lot of fuckery going on in these places. And he, in this, he mentions Elon Musk, Jeffrey Epstein, Bill and Hillary Clinton, as well as Chelsea, Richard Branson, Ross Perot, Mark Cuban, Elizabeth Holmes, and many others. So yeah, we can have a quick look through some of those if you're interested, or there is a video that I can put up. I'll just have to stop this one to get it, which is pretty hard to watch. I'm not going to lie. Like that last one was really hard for me to watch when he's singing that Revolution, because I don't know, I'm pretty empathetic. I try to be compassionate as opposed to empathetic these days, but I'm a bit of empathetic person, and like seeing him in that sort of state is pretty tough to watch, not gonna lie.
Yeah, that video was tough to watch.
Okay, so I think it was
What's this next video?
Yeah, no, this is mad intense video. This is, he set himself on fire and they put him out, and he's still burning a little bit, and he starts moving again. And it's like he's like telling him to put the fire out or something. I don't know. It just is pretty crazy.
Well, he didn't survive.
No, he ends up dying.
Right?
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, but I just like watching that is, it's pretty damn intense, guy. You ready for this?
Yeah, maybe we'll link. I don't know if we're allowed to show it, but let's play it anyways, and then if there's a problem, we'll have to blur it, and then we'll just like put the link.
So he's in here.
Yeah. Oh wow.
Yes. See him moving?
Oh wow. Yeah.
Mad intense.
Yeah. So his goal was to bring to light that politicians are criminals, and he thought that setting himself on fire would get enough attention to his Instagram, where he's been posting about this shit, to bring people, to get his message out. Basically, he thought setting himself on fire would get people to his Instagram to get his message out, is basically what his objective was.
Possibly. That's one thing that could explain it. Again, we won't truly know because it was inside his mind. But yeah, it appears as if that is his sort of train of thought. It fucking worked. Like, he did a mad extreme thing. And so I think this is an example of when people think that there are no other options, right? And so this is what I sort of wanted to talk about here, is how important feedback mechanisms are, both positive and negative feedback mechanisms, in systems and in society in general, right? What I think is contributing to this rise in extreme events is that people within society are increasingly feeling as if they have no other options, and that they have to do these extreme things to either get attention or to to get what they want, or other explanations. But I think that that's part of it, is that we don't have these sort of, the feedback mechanisms aren't as effective or accurate or as available as they previously used to be. That makes sense. And that sort of creates the space for these extreme events to happen, or for people to think that they need to go to such extremes to get the attention. And in some cases, not just think, but actually do need to go to the extremes to get attention, right? So I think that this guy is an example of somebody who thought that he needed to go to this extreme to get attention, to get his message out, to get what he thinks that he has found out. Now, I keep saying he thinks, etc., because I don't know if what he's found is correct or true, but it seems as if he definitely believed that.
Damn. I'm going to be going to sleep tonight thinking about that song you was singing, bro. It's like, damn.
That's intense, hey?
Yeah, it's an intense story.
Yeah. So, again, there are crazy things happening all over the world all the time. But just there's all this sort of stuff that's happening in sort of like what we would categorize as like a negative way, right? Just don't forget that there are also beautiful things that are happening, magical things that are happening around the world all the time as well. And so, sometimes we paint our picture of reality based off what we see, or based off what gets put in front of us. And with the news and social media and things like that, the fear and negativity and crazy events like this tend to sell or get more attention, get more clicks. So they're promoted more than the good stuff. And it's just a little reminder out there to everybody that, yes, bad stuff is happening, but there's also good stuff that's happening around the world all the time as well. And don't get too upset. Or if you are getting upset about this, allocate some attention to focus on the amazing and beautiful things that are happening around the world all the time. Because it's not that the world is all burning, it's all bad. There's good and bad happening everywhere, all the time, so to speak.
Yo, way to end on a good note, guy. Yeah.
Trying, that's pretty heavy stuff, dude.
Yeah. That was heavy.
Super heavy stuff. But yeah, fascinating that this stuff is happening. I definitely think that there's the argument to be made, or there's a hypothesis we could make about how society's feedback mechanisms might have been corrupted or modified in certain ways, that is leading to people feeling increasingly like that what they do or what they say doesn't have an impact, which could lead to them wanting to or needing to do more and more extreme things to sort of feel heard or get attention. And I think that something to think about anyway. So yeah, anything else to wrap this up, Guy?
No, that was good, guy. That was good.
All right. Thank you very much for listening. And any updates? Actually, I'm just going to redo that. Thank you very much for listening, and have a lovely rest of your night, Guy. Wherever you're watching, have a great day, morning, afternoon, or evening. Peace.
I love you, bro. Peace.
Love you too, Guy. Bye.
Later.